I've got one to kick you off. It's actually for Tim. I'm interested to understand how you got your children to eat such a diverse range of food in your school canteen when actually they're probably at home exposed to such high processed and high sugar food. I mean, I struggle to get my kids to do it, so I mean, it's amazing that Flavio's been able to do it.
Absolutely, I think one of the key things is having a fantastically enthusiastic chef, and not just about food, but about children as well. Liking children, as Jeanette said. It's no good having school dinner people or cook chefs that aren't interested in children, because without that, then they're not inspired or motivated to make a different outcome for them. And we have a wonderful chef in a guy called Flavio, Venezuelan, passionate about food, a bit like Raymond's, but he to be honest with you, I'm not a vegetarian, and I never liked vegetarian food. And when I went over there, I thought, don't want any of the vegetarian choices, and I'll always have a meat dish. Flavio came in, and his vegetarian food is to die for. And I now go over and I have the vegetarian choice over the meat choice, because he puts in love. And we talked about love, and we talked about teaching. What does teaching need now? It needs love, it needs relationships with those children. And we're distancing ourselves more and more from children, aren't we, in the way that the government drives. No, just attainment. You get them in there, you drill them in for maths and English, and that's all you need. That's all we want you to do. But we didn't go into teaching for that, did we? We didn't think to ourselves, we want children to have a really good experience at doing as many tests as possible and scoring high in the tests. We went in there to make things better for them. And the chef that we've got is really passionate about cooking. His creativity with that is wonderful. The food taste is brilliant. The other thing he does is he lets them try bits. He says, what do you want? I like that. Okay, what about this? No, I don't like that. Take a bit, just taste it. If you don't eat it, fine, but just try it. So he'll do bits and tasters of other food. And his whole team have got that mentality. They'll all say, well, just try it, just take that to try it. And the children try it most of the time, they'll love it. And it really has changed their palates. And the other thing is, and I guess minority ethnic groups really make a difference, because actually they're coming from countries where their foods are so spicy and full of and different, and they're going in there and they're taking the foods, they're loving all the variety of foods. It's the white British that are right fussy, and they want the chips and they want the nuggets, because that's what we've got them used to. But actually now they're getting used to all the other flavours, and they're loving it because they're seeing all their peers and their friends taking those flavours, and it really makes a big difference. And they take those flavours over the bland flavours that they've been used to now, and it's been fantastic.
Thank you. Any questions?
I'm from the Environment Department, and there's some really good synergy between what we're doing and with the schools and what you're doing. One of the questions I had was around food resilience. So obviously we're an island community, the weather's a bit shocking today, the boat doesn't come in with food, which isn't something you potentially experience as much in London. But I'm wondering what you're doing around the growing, and whether there's a lot of learning to be done around kind of being more independent and kind of planning and moving away from kind of packaged foods and things, whether there's anything that you're doing around resilience.
It's a really good point, and actually it's something we talked about last night at dinner, was about the food providence that you talked about in Dubai. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because it was quite interesting about Tim recently went to Dubai to speak at a food conference there. Do you want to?
Yeah, okay, it was interesting, because one thing I hadn't thought about, that Dubai import all their food. They cannot grow food there at all. So as a consequence, all their food is imported. So what really is important for them is the provenance of the food, where it's come from, where it's been grown, and to make sure it's been grown in good areas, making sure that when it comes over, it's stored and chilled at the right temperatures, because obviously if it sits on a dock for a long time in the heat, and then they put it onto the refrigerator back. There's so many things that come into that, and that was a really and something that when Raymond Ron came and visited the school and he was interviewed, it was the horse meat scare at the time, and it was one of the things that he spoke about, and which really sort of opened out for me when the children, he was talking about the horse meat scare and asking the children what they thought, and the children thought, oh no, horse meat, oh, and he said, no, don't worry about the meat. Meat is meat, whether it's horse or not. He said, but the key issues were that guys were selling it as beef, and it wasn't. They were charging beef prices, and it was horse meat, which was a lot cheaper. But he said the one thing that actually resonated with me was that he said, and we don't know about that horse, whether it be just been injected from a vet's, antibiotics, so it's still in the system as it becomes the meat, and therefore can enter the human food chain. And that is a real problem for people in Dubai, because they have to be right on all of those things. So for us here in the UK, it was a big scare at the time, and we could get on top of that and get all things back in place. But for Dubai, that's all their food. And so, it really is a real important thing there that we understand. Whether children are starting to understand that from the growing in the community garden and growing in our garden. We have done things around chickens as well, where they've eaten chickens, and we've actually gone through the whole filleting a whole chicken, and again to understand that it's important for them to know where the meat comes from, that it's well sourced, and it's a life. That's another thing I'd like to get into. Children need to understand what death is. It's not a thing that happens in your computer which you can reset. It's something that's final, and it's about and food gives us an opportunity to let children know that death is a final thing, so knives aren't things to be played with. I got that lesson as a child because I would walk down my high street. There were about 3 or 4 butchers, and what were hanging in there? The whole carcasses of animals. What do we see now when we go out there? We don't see that anymore. We go into supermarkets where it's nicely cleaned, wrapped food, which the children actually don't seem to understand it's the actual animal. And why? What do you do when you ask the parent, what's that? Oh, it's beef. Not cow, beef. Where does that come from? Cows. Where does milk come from? Cows. So are they thinking it's a byproduct of a cow, or do they know and understand? So again, it's about death. Do our teenagers understand the consequences of actions and things like that, and what death really is? Because we never teach it. They learn it through computer games, don't they? And through action films. We're not doing anything to support that. So again, it's just worth thinking about that food helps to show what death is as well. So it should be respected. Life should be respected.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I don't know if you went off the time. Well, I tagged you there. I don't know if I answered your question.
Jeanette?
I think that's another part of Food for Life, because it is, as it says, food for life. That's why I called it what I did. But also because we do farm visits, so it's a package. It's not just about the food, and it's like Tim said, it's not just about the growing, it's about the whole package. A lot of our schools now are doing farmers markets, for instance. And so they are setting all that up, obviously along with the parents, but along with the teachers, and they're having fantastic farmers markets in the playground. It's just absolutely brilliant. But also, as I say, farm visits, hugely important, so they actually can see. And one thing that very quickly I will say, years and years ago again, we took our reception children on a farm visit. And they all went off in the fields and they were all pulling carrots. And so we've got 20 children, so I've got 20 carrots. Now, they gave me these carrots and they said, Maggie says, oh, will you cook these for our dinner? And so I said, yes, right. So the following day, I obviously got these carrots, and these little ones were just saying, these are ours, these are ours. They were so excited. The problem being that I, at that time, was cooking for 250. And these little ones thought 20 carrots had served 250 children. So it was great. But yeah,
going back to your point for us, we've really struggled. Like Rachel, who's our amazing food teacher, has had to order things from Waitrose because of the impending weather. We have a soda bread recipe that requires buttermilk, and actually there's only one supermarket on the whole island that it has buttermilk, which is Waitrose. And not specifically for the schools programme, but when we've taught the adults, my tutor used to joke that she always used to carry a lemon in her handbag because she knew that there'd be no buttermilk that week, so she'd make it herself. We've got a massive vision, and like we said already, we're on the start of this journey, but we'd love to have a community garden where we grow our own and we take it into the schools and possibly do school meals, but we use it for the Let's Get Cooking programme. The schools are starting to do that. Like Adam said, he's got lots of planters around the schools where the children are growing their own, and we did harvest a lot last summer, didn't we, that we used in the kitchen, because it is a plant to plate project. But I mean, I'd love to have a conversation with you about that and how we could do that. I know Martin and I have talked about community gardens and having a gardener that could possibly float between the schools to help facilitate the growing, because often teachers don't have the time to go out and do it with the children, or in fairness to them, they don't know anything about gardening, because I know I don't either. But it's a journey, like Jeanette says, and one I'd love to speak to you after about that. Thank you. Any other questions?
Sorry, in between, can I just add to that? I think
of course.
just recognising as well that it's about trying to use local products where we can within, and I know obviously Caring Cooks do that, looking to use genuine jersey where we can, where we put procurement policies in, trying to encourage kind of using and sourcing local products where possible. And we've made those connections at least at strategic level at this point, but that needs to be demonstrated. So whereby we do bring forward local programmes as far as possible, the products that are available, limited as they are trying to be sourced locally, and the same Caring Cooks are already on the role model for that.
Can I just say that, you know, as an island, we are incredibly lucky because we have got on our island a lot of people who are willing and wanting to be involved with our schools and with our settings. So the minute you mention that you're doing something about vegetables, you have got people wanting to donate and there's nothing more special. Sorry, that's not very good English. There's the reaction of the children when you take them to somewhere like Fungi and they can see these warehouses filled with logs that are growing the mushrooms, or the market. They give you for free these huge fish that you can have out for the children to prod and poke, and it's through doing things like that that they start to make the connection, as you were saying. But there's a huge range of people out there who want to be involved, and it is just a case of us taking those steps to be involved. A lot of restaurants in our local community are very willing to have the children come and visit, and are very willing to come in and work with us. And I know you facilitated that in terms of making Christmas puddings with Ormers, Longville Manor, I was talking about with somebody else. So I think all the ingredients are there for us as an island, but it's that bringing it together and those first couple of steps, and we are just starting to do that.
I will say, if you are a setting that does need support with that, please get in touch with us. Ransom's have just donated a potting shed for a local school, which will be music to Hillary's ears, but there's a parent in there that's leading the gardening club up there, and she's now going to start potting seedlings with the children. We do have some credibility in the local, in the island, and if you do need any help, please, and we will try and help you as much as we can. Any other questions?
I'd just like to congratulate you on a great inspirational day across the board, really. I think it's been fantastic.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions. Tim, I was wondering about, I guess there's clear benefits to the cluster of schools at the primary level for you and the area you're in. Is there anything that's sustained into the secondary sector?
That's a question that always comes up, and it falls apart at secondary. And I noticed on those last slides there that you said that nurseries, you know, the primary schools, you had universities, but secondary schools was missing from that. And that is a very, very poor state of affairs for secondary schools. For me, the other bit of the story for my setting is, fortunately, the Kidbrooke School where Jamie started, they've just been taken over by a Lee Academy Trust, so they've become an academy, and they're going to be renamed. But I found out, by sheer chance, by being at another school, that the new principal, who took over in January, is a friend of mine, who I knew from the 90s. So I got in touch with him, and I said, I understand you're taking over. He said, yeah, I am there in January. I said, we need to meet. We've already had 2 meetings now, and I said, I want you to adopt a food ethos in the school from year 7 as soon as we come in. And he said, absolutely, I'm up for that. He said, we're already going to redesign our eating area, and he said, I'm ready for the cooking part. I then had Hillary along there for the second meeting, and I said, look, we've got a community garden. We want the secondary school to be involved, partly for funding, because we need to fund it. You know, the primary school funds are you know, we stretch them as much as we can, but we can't fund it solely for ourselves for a long period of time. So we want some money for it, but we want your guys to use it as well. Transition. I mean, you've got year 10 children working alongside year 4 children. Where's the fear about going to secondary school? You know, it's just does away with all that. And when they're focused on community gardens, it's just like older brothers and sisters working with their younger siblings. So yeah, there is light at the end of the tunnel for this, because the second one is the same Academy Trust are putting another school literally round the corner from us, secondary school setting, and they've asked me, have I spoken to the principal? And I said, I don't even know who the principal is yet because the school hasn't even started. And they said, all right, we'll put you in touch because we're like a food ethos going there. So that's 2 secondary schools, very short distance from Charlton Manor, who I'm very heartened by the fact that we could get a good food ethos going there. But you're right, there needs to be more done at secondary school.
And Olivia, just another quick question. Is your app available in dual language or other languages?
No, it's not yet. My budget ran out. Even though, yeah, my dad did it for free and as did Peg. But no, I put all the cash in there. I'm trying to get it spread in the UK first. And then, but you're right, it's a global concern. It's with globalisation now, you can see McDonald's getting their claws and all those big companies all over the world.
Hello, I'm here flying the flag for secondary schools. I currently work for Capsicum Catering. We do healthy food for schools in 6 secondary schools, and that also feeds in with 3 primary schools as well. So my interest here today is to see, I think on the island we're doing a little bit cock-handed where we're looking after secondary schools, but actually it needs to start earlier from the nurseries, primary, and then leading into the secondary. So I'm very, very keen to find out what's happening from a primary stage, because I know in the 3 primary schools that we currently do, the uptake is much bigger when they get to the secondary schools because they've already started having hot lunches, being educated in having a hot meal, balanced meal, using a knife and fork, table manners. The education is already there and there's a massive uptake. So I know the facilities here in Jersey in the primary schools aren't there to provide hot meals, and that's a shame. But we're doing a lot of work in the secondary schools to educate and feed the children correctly. I just wondered, I think the biggest battle is parents, and I just wondered what the panel thought, how, from your experiences, how we can educate the parents as well, because, okay, we're doing our bit with the children, but actually, I think a large majority starts from home as well, and we want that correlation from children and parents and adults to interlink as well. We have a smart card system where the parents can load money onto a card, and therefore the children have to spend money in the school, which is a good thing because it keeps them within the school. They then have to buy food that has been approved through the guidelines, and they're not going off to the Spar to buy sausage rolls or Mars bars or Coca-Cola. There's no bullying for money, they can't lose money, etc., etc. So I think more than 50% of the battle is with the parents as well, to get them to buy into everything that we're doing here and everything that I do in the secondary school. So I just wondered any ideas of how we can use this and educate parents as well and get them to buy into what we're doing here.
It's a really, really good point. I think Martin and Adam might both have comments on it. Shall I kind of talk about what we're planning? So I would love to see school meals in primary schools, but yes, there are no kitchens in primary